Hello, everyone, and we're going with the Woman's Cave today. So welcome to the Woman's Cave. You know,
or
we have 4 other
podcasts, you know?
Yes.
Why not, y'all? I mean, all the other ones, Writer's Class.
I lied. This is going to go on Meet Hollywood Mondays.
See? And so we don't even know our own podcast, which is kind of interesting because, you know, you left creators in a house for 7 months. So we had no other thing to do but create and not feel bad about it and not be like, well, you know, I could have been like scrubbing the inside of my house and because we've already done it. So now it's just like, well, we're just gonna make up stuff now. Like, let's do it.
Like we have our own clothing line and jewelry line now, and our own bathing suit, which I love. It doesn't look great on me, but it'll look great on everybody else. Who can put on the 20 pounds.
I'm dubbing it the pandemic 20. Like the freshman 20, then it's the pandemic 20.
And then I put on the bathing suit, and it was like it looked like 40.
Oh, I'm Jane,
and I'm Winona, and I'm wearing a matching ribbon and dress today. I just wanted
wanted everyone to understand that she took my dress yet again, my emergency dress, but just in case there's a fire or something, because you never want to look ugly on camera, you want to look gorgeous. So I have a fabulous dress.
Our pretty friends actually told us, they were like, they always put their clothes out in case there was a fire in the neighborhood, so that they could just grab those clothes as soon as they ran out, and like so they could change in the yard and be, you know, TV ready.
They had their makeup bag like hung on the thing with it, so they were like, so no, the cameras will never catch me like looking like I just woke up. I know I wake up.
Steal that for a story.
You should, and it was really great, and I got to thinking. I said, oh, that's a good idea.
So I'm wearing her emergency dress, and it is in fire red. And since there is not a man here in the cave today, I can finally say this thing freaking smashes my boobs, and I ain't got none. All right, done.
Wow. So you just told all the other men in the audience.
Yes, I mean they could be.
Thank you for that. I just want to.
No, I think you got him excited.
All right, so we're done. All right, so we wrote a bunch of books, which we call Literary Life Guides for Pop Poetry. And that, you know, I'm just going to be like,
the Anti-Thought series.
You can find everything about your ladies on www.andwethought.com.
Including this interview, which I'm starting to regret right now.
Even this inappropriate Winona, she'll be on there too. Why not? And we have a co-host today. Co-host?
Would you like
Hi, I'm Tanya Todd. I'm an author, actress, and screenwriter from Las Vegas.
Fabulous. And we have a wonderful guest here today, y'all.
Amazing guest.
Amazing, right?
I'm still kind of scared of the fact that she said yes.
And yeah, we're gonna mess it up horribly, which Winona's already done. Yes, so yeah, well, we're taking that high five on that. We messed up horribly. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. First of all, thank you for inviting me, ladies. I got your email and I just thought you looked like super fun. And I thought, I'm going to spend some fun time with those ladies. My name is Lois Vossen. I'm the executive producer of Independent Lens, which is a primetime series on PBS devoted to independent documentaries. And you guys said to say 3 quick things about myself. I was born and raised on a farm in Minnesota. I'm a twin, and I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Wow.
Hey.
I have something to say. Well, I'm allergic to coffee, so you're not really missing that much, but I am going to say this one thing. If you either go to Greece or Paris and they offer you coffee, go ahead and try it there.
No, don't have a cup though. Have a sip, and so you can still say you've never had a cup of
coffee. Yes.
I love coffee ice cream. Does that count?
Yeah, but they taste different.
Yeah, they taste different.
Ice cream
tastes good.
Exactly, because it's ice cream.
Yes.
Oh I love that. That's a great idea.
Okay, and
we should ask questions. We're going to be semi-serious.
I wanted to talk about Culver's because I think she knows what it is.
Oh my God, you do.
Wait, what?
Culver's? The fast food restaurant?
Which one?
Culver's. Culver.
Oh, yeah, in the Midwest.
Yes.
I just want to talk about it because I love it. And normally I visited every summer, and you know, COVID was happening, so I couldn't visit.
Yeah. So our book tour goes through the Midwest.
Just because I want to go to Culver's.
I didn't go either this summer because of COVID.
But
you know, it's what's causing that COVID-19 pounds that you guys were referring to. The extra.
Oh, we wish we had Culver's in the area.
Oh my goodness.
I'd be 40 pounds fatter.
Custard. That's all I'm gonna say is Culver's in the
famous for that custard thing.
Butterburgers. I can't eat burgers, but I look at them and they look so good. Oh my God. Okay, I'm done now.
We're done. Okay, so we had to talk to you about Culver.
One more thing about where you came from. Love the lakes.
Yes. 10,000 and
Yeah.
more.
Are there really 10,000?
Oh, more than 10,000. They're literally more. When you fly into Minnesota, it's just like you flying into Fantasy Island. In the summer, it's so rich and lush, and it's like lake, 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 lake. Even in just Minneapolis proper, there's something like 7 lakes. It's fabulous. The winters, not as fabulous, but the falls are like right now in Minnesota, autumn, heavenly.
Really?
I always go to Minnesota like in July.
Or in the dead of winter, because it's where our plane landed. I don't know why it landed there.
And it was so cold.
And it was so upsetting because we had just come from California and Vegas, and the next stop was Minnesota. We got off and good God.
Why?
Not good. Not good. Not good. Don't want to do that.
No, you don't.
Okay,
I had tank tops and a hoodie.
Okay, so
with flip-flops.
yeah, it was bad. So let's talk about independent films and how it came about, how
Independent Lens, the
this,
documentary.
blah. You know, I just said it wrong, y'all. So,
Yeah. So can you
messing
tell
up
us,
again.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history and what you do for Independent Lens now?
That's right, you have written down.
Sure. Before I came to this job, I worked at Sundance, and my passion lies in documentary films that look at social issues, specifically around diversity, inclusion, equity, systemic racism, all of those kind of, income inequality, environment. So when I came to work at ITVS, we were making all these great films. We had 9 of them that year that premiered at Sundance, but we couldn't get them on PBS, which all of our documentaries are made for PBS. And so my boss and I began to really see that there was a need for a series. There already was one series called POV, but it was only 12 weeks. And there were so many more incredible documentaries. So this is 1997 actually. And so it took 4 or 5 years, but then PBS decided that yes, there should be a series for independent documentary. And so in 2002, they said, we would love for you guys to do a series and have it on PBS. And so hence the series was created, and we just launched our 19th season last night.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Like that's
the reason that we exist is really to bring diversity to public media. There are other organizations doing it well. There's a great organization, Firelight Media, and lots of, but that's our mandate. That's literally our congressional mandate, is to bring diversity and inclusion, stories made by filmmakers who are from communities that are underrepresented, stories by women, stories by disabled filmmakers. And so we're really proud of the fact that almost 70% of our money goes to filmmakers of color and 51% goes to women filmmakers. And the stories we tell are from communities all over the country, rural, big city, African-American, Native American, Filipino, the disabled, everything. We really try to be that lens into what America really looks like, who America really is.
And your body of work does evidence that you've been committed to this for years. I'm curious how the influx of support for advocacy has affected you this year.
Yeah, it's sort of we like to say it's like Charles Dickens' novel. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. There's been this huge proliferation of documentary, and obviously when we first started the series, it was basically us and HBO. There was PBS and HBO, and now, of course, there's everybody. There's Netflix. There's Airbnb is funding documentaries. Red Bull documentaries. CNN. They're everywhere now, which is fantastic. The rise of documentary film and the fact that audiences have grown and have embraced documentary film is fantastic. But it's also a little harder because there's just so much more out there. So finding really great quality projects, but also ironically, the money is now spread so thin that getting enough money, like I was just on a call, we're making this incredible 8-hour docuseries, and we don't have enough money to fund an 8-hour docuseries on our own. So finding a partner to help fund that was really hard, because everybody's fighting for the rights and everybody's fighting for, so, but it's also really exciting. I always say when we're looking and we're hiring people, if you are into a medium or a line of work that's changing, you pick the right one, because media is changing every 5 minutes. If you want a job that is absolutely steady and staying the same, you need to leave this line of work, because everything about film, documentary, distribution is changing constantly with the streamers and with how audiences want to engage with content.
Oh, wow.
How do you end up finding the projects that you consider for Independent Lens?
That's a great question. We have an open call because we're publicly funded. You all, the American public, our money comes from Congress through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, not all of it, but a portion of it. And so we have what we call an open call. So any filmmaker can apply. And then from those hundreds of submissions, we have a team of internal and external reviewers and readers, and then ultimately panelists who help narrow it down. And that's one way that we choose how to fund. It's probably the largest portion of our money is given out through those open calls, and it's all on our website at itvs.org. We have short form, we have feature, we do docu-series, we do journalism shorts with journalism outlets. So we work in all kinds of different platforms and mediums. And then I occasionally, not occasionally, but I go out to film festivals, back when we could go out to film festivals, and I meet a lot of filmmakers, as do my colleagues. I have a fantastic partner. His name is Nolan Walker. He's just brilliant. And he and other people on the team, Carrie Brown, we all go out and we meet a lot of filmmakers in person, and they pitch us constantly. And so we also get projects, just direct pitches, and we sometimes can finance a project that way. And that's the bulk of what's on Independent Lens. But then every year I'm also able to acquire a small number, maybe 3 to 5 completed films that I see at a film festival that I fall in love with. But that's a small number. Most of the films we co-finance and we co-produce. And so we work with the filmmakers for 3 years, 5 years. It takes a long time to make certain documentaries.
That's amazing.
So what exactly goes into the decision-making process for you to greenlight those projects?
That is a really great question. Do you have an hour? No. It's a very big, it's a big decision. I mean, we're looking at, first and foremost, our mandate for diversity, equity, inclusion, underrepresented voices. We also really want to support new filmmakers, first-time filmmakers, as well as somebody who's made, like Stanley Nelson, who's made 30 films, or maybe he's made 20, but he's made a lot of films, but he's still a brilliant filmmaker. So every year I'm trying to have a balance of new filmmakers, emerging filmmakers, and really established filmmakers. We're also looking for geographic diversity. We don't want all the stories to come out of New York or LA. We want them to come from Iowa and Mississippi and Austin and Ohio. So that weighs into the decision. And then we're funding things. Some things are farther along. Maybe the filmmaker's already at rough cut, and then maybe something else is really just in its infancy. So we're trying to balance so that we have a pipeline that's growing so that they'll be ready next year and the following year and the following year. And then we're really looking for new ideas. And I always say to people, the thing you don't want to say, at least to me, is my film is just like, and then name another film, because why do we need another film if it's just like that film? We're looking for new ideas, or if it's about a big issue like immigration or police brutality or environmental, problems, what's your unique take on it? And that's where it gets really interesting, because there are lots of people who want to make a film, but to make something that's unique, that really has a unique perspective. I mean, there are a lot of them out there, but those are the harder ones to really find. And then it's really a question of I always say it's an art, not a science. You really are trusting your gut based on that filmmaker that you're talking to, and a belief that they have the access and the passion and the ability to surround themselves with a great editor and a great cinematographer to pull it off. And then it's just a lot of hard work. And I'm always humbled by independent filmmakers because they're so passionate about what they do. And they literally, most of them start without a penny. They just go out and start filming something that they're passionate about. And they put their own money on the line. And then they start to get people to invest in it, whether it's through a GoFundMe campaign or it's through, a major funder like us. And that's just pretty remarkable to me, that people have that level of passion and commitment to want to tell an authentic story that will move somebody they don't even know into changing their ideas or broadening their horizon or becoming civically engaged in an issue. And that's, of course, the fun part.
Absolutely. I have a question, and the question is, you talked about that gut feeling. And a lot of people that we have had on lately keep talking about this gut feeling. So I wanted to know if that gut feeling is one of those things that you developed over years, or if it's just like your sense of art.
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I hope this is no longer as true, but I know when I was coming up, and I'm an oldie, women were still told not to trust themselves, that and so for me personally, it took a little bit of time for me to just trust my own gut and just say, I have the ability to make this decision. So I think there was somewhat of a personal thing I had to cross over, because I grew up in a wonderful family, great parents, great dad, great mom, but it was very patriarchal. And women were sort of like, well, nice little miss, you'll just follow your husband kind of thing. And so to break out of that was the first step. But then beyond that, I think it's both. I think it is about, it's innately in you, but it's also literally learning as you go. And people always say this, and I always used to be like, well, but it's so true. You really only learn from your failures. Your successes teach you very little, because you're like, wow, that worked. But it's the failures where you didn't do it right, or you regret a decision that you didn't trust your gut. Those are the ones that I stay up at night, like, I should have listened to myself. I knew it. And that's how I learned. It was like, if I didn't speak up at a meeting when I had an idea, and then somebody else would say it and everybody'd go like, that's a great idea. And I'd be like, why didn't I say it? I should have just said it. And learning that you have to trust your gut, that we instinctively know things, and and risk it, because in our culture still, guys are expected to be able to just say whatever they want. And if it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. And women sometimes, and I think this is changing, but sometimes we feel like we can only speak if we're like 100% sure, but that's not actually accurate. We have to just trust our gut. And when I look back, it's when I literally just trusted that instinct in me, that filmmaker sitting in front of me telling me he wants to make X film or she wants to make X film. And I knew from the way they talked about it that that was going to be a great film. And just saying, nobody's going to talk me out of this. We're going to make this. And that is really where my successes lied, in that. I also had one really great motivating factor. When we first got the series, there was a woman, I will never say who she was, I won't say anything more, but there was a woman who literally looked me in the eye and said, you're going to fail. And I was just like, that is just BS. I mean, I was like, how dare you say that to me? And it became almost like the best incentive I've ever had. I was just like, I'm so going to prove you wrong. You were going to be.
Thanks for the push, right?
Exactly. I was like, how dare you assume that I'm not going to do this? And I've never said, I've only told that story to one other person, but it was just like this little fire in me that just was the perfect, like, I know I can do this, and now I'm going to prove to you.
Yeah.
And it was so condescending in the way it was done. And so I think sometimes it's also, our gut is also, there's a phrase in Buddhism, I'm not a Buddhist, but I remember hearing this one phrase, that our enemies are our greatest teachers. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking at the time, you feel like my enemy. And what are you teaching me? You're teaching me that I'm going to prove you wrong. And so it was just something that was always kind of floating in the back of my head, like one day she's going to have to apologize for that stupid remark.
Success is the best revenge, right?
So I think it really is. So it's a great question though.
So I was gonna say one more thing, and then I'm gonna say that we actually, that's the reason why we are where we are and what we did, because somebody told us never gonna happen. It's impossible.
See, you're living proof of it. You are living proof, and you knew in yourself that you were capable of doing it. Of course, you're going to do it. That is exactly what I'm talking about, and I think that's why I'm on your show, because I felt that. When I literally got your email and looked you up, I'm like, these are the kind of women I love. They're kind of just, I keep wanting to say naughty words today, but they're kick, you know what.
No, they are, and they're super fun, just like you thought.
and that, you guys, that is, that vibrates, that shows through. And I think that energy attracts other great energy. And then you could just gain confidence, and you can hear that voice inside you that you're supposed to listen to.
So we are going to go a little long on this interview. It's not going to be 17 minutes.
So this is a great interview. So I was like, well,
I'll be shorter.
No. I looked at the time and I was like, well, no one's here to tell me I can't. So
So I wanted to quickly say, like, I love the fact that you're like, for us, we knew that we could do it. But before I was like, I hope we can. And then when that person said something, I was like, oh, I know I can.
Oh, we will.
We will.
It came to, oh, we will.
So anyway, it's interesting how when you were saying your enemies do educate you, they also give you confidence that you did not have before. And then I wanted to ask you a two-part question. Yes, this is known as two-part question.
Famous two-part questions.
If I were famous, it would be.
Would be a two-part question. How? Yeah. And what?
Exactly. So my first question is the serious one that I wrote down. So I'm picking up the card.
What? We have our fans are gonna be so happy.
Very professional.
So the first question is, if reality TV, I know a lot of people find it a guilty pleasure, but it introduced docuseries and documentaries to the public in an entertaining way. Do you think this has a lot to do with the popularity of it now? And my second question is a silly question. Have you thought about, increasing diversity and telling different stories from Annapolis, Maryland, from two indie published people?
Poets.
About,
They're pitching you right now.
You should literally go to the website at itvs.org and hit the thing that says funding and short form, because we are looking for short form digital content. And we are definitely looking for new storytellers and so you should explore that, and also Google IndieLens Storycast, which is a series of digital ongoing series that we funded in the past. So take a look at that. You might have an idea that we would love to consider.
Our documentary is finished. It's done already.
And then
send it to me.
Yeah.
You have my email.
Oh, no. Okay, we weren't really pitching you. I'm sorry. There was a joke. It was a bit. I'm sorry. Oh, I felt so bad. I was like, she really is taking this serious. Well, Nona, you need to have preface that.
I should have.
You need to have your laugh sign.
Yes, I should have. Our documentary is done, but it's absolutely horrible. We couldn't get it done any better.
Well, then it sounds like you need funding to do it better.
It's like the first waffle. You kind of the first waffle is not the best waffle. It's
right.
The second waffle.
The first one's for the dog.
Yeah. To your first question, I mean, I actually draw a pretty big distinction between reality television and the current growth in documentary. For me, when I think of reality television, I think of things like The Bachelor or Survivor or Dancing with the Stars or whatever. And that's what it is. And a lot of people love it and get great enjoyment out of it. The thing what documentary has always been is documentary, and they have people who write some of that stuff. So it's not actually all it's not spontaneous. Documentary at its heart is the idea of putting an audience in the shoes of another real life person and having you experience that person's life as authentically as possible. And I think that the rise of documentary has been for a number of reasons. One is as news agencies across the country and around the world began to lose money and shut down, there was a need for authentic storytelling, and documentary is one way to get that. I also think that people have become more cynical about news and the media, they still want authentic stories. They still want to understand their neighbors or people they don't know, or to just make sense of the world. And documentary does that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is that as the world is so complex, and we are now with social media, we're all just in each other's faces. How do you make sense of the world? Especially if you don't trust the media, or you don't know which part of the media to trust. I also think that the documentaries themselves have gotten even better. I think that the people making documentaries have begun to use animation and all kinds of tools from the narrative toolkit to make documentaries just really engaging and enticing. And like, we've always done docuseries. We did a docuseries back in 2004 called Lion in the House that looked at health disparity in African-American communities versus white communities. But we didn't call it a docuseries. We called it a multi-part series, very not sexy. And then we went on to make other docuseries, and then we stopped, and then suddenly everybody started making them and calling them docuseries. And the great thing about the Netflixes is that they've invested a lot of money in promoting docuseries. And so now people are aware of them, and you can go to their channel and you can watch Schitt's Creek and then see a docuseries, and then watch, whatever, Chicago, the new Aaron Sorkin movie, and then go to whatever's on your thing. And they're woven into the palette in a way that has made them much more accessible to people. And we wish we had the money to do that. I'd give anything to have Netflix's money. But they have been a real huge source of making documentaries much more accessible. But I will say one last thing that is more serious. There's now, though, becoming a pretty slippery slope where everything is being called a documentary, and it's not actually. It doesn't have some of the rigors. Documentary means that it should be fact-checked. It should be unbiased. I mean, it should be told from the filmmaker's point of view. The people who fund it or the people who are in it should not be watching cuts or having any editorial control. And a lot of people are letting those lines really blur. And it's actually kind of scary, because when that starts to happen, then people will no longer trust documentaries either, the same way they only trust this news channel or that news channel. And that's what I'm actually a little worried about that. And it's one of the things I do love about being on PBS. We don't have a lot of money, but we do have very rigorous standards. And so I think when people watch PBS, whether they're red state, blue state, progressive, conservative, liberal, young, old, they believe that what they're being shown is accurate. And even if it has a point of view, that it's still accurate. And that, I think, is really important. So that's my little sort of PSA moment.
That was a great PSA moment. I loved it very much. And now Tanya's going to ask her remaining questions because,
So we'll be here for another 3 hours. Don't worry. No, I'm joking.
I got to go get some non-coffee. No.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of extrapolate from what you said earlier. You said that it takes about 3 years sometimes to make a film, but you have something that's about to premiere called Represent, which had to have been in production long before the current climate.
Yeah. We have films that take 5 years, 8 years. I'm Not Your Negro was 10 years. We've done a docuseries that took 8 or 9 years. So it really varies, because most of our programs, most of our documentaries are following characters over a period of time as the story unfolds. So for example, Represent is about 3 women running for political office in 2018. A young African-American, just this brilliant young woman, and then an Asian American woman and a white woman. And I say that because they all experience different things in their races, overt racism in the case of some of them, because of who they are. And so the filmmaker began filming that back in 2016. and now it's coming to air. And we just finished the film this summer, because even after we stopped filming it, then you have to edit it. So, and sometimes, like the docuseries I mentioned, we're filming and editing at the same time, and we're going to keep and shooting, and and we're just going to keep doing that up until the last minute. So everybody, they work a little differently. And of course, now during COVID, everything is, again, there's a whole nother level of who can shoot, when can you shoot, is it safe, are you putting your subjects in danger in any way? But the average documentary that we support is a minimum of 3.5, 4 years of just making the documentary. Then they go to film festivals, they might have a theatrical release, then they premiere on Independent Lens, and then they stream in what we call the long tail on either our streaming site or on one of the other SVOD, an Amazon, a Hulu, Netflix, somewhere else.
It just seemed like a very coincidental and timely release,
That's my job. That's part of my job. You asked me earlier what I do. So obviously finding projects with my incredible team and colleagues, because I don't do it by myself. I have an extraordinarily smart group of people I get to work with, who most of whom are way smarter than me, but I've just been there longer. So,
so you've surrounded yourself with a great team, which is a wise decision on your part.
Surround yourself with people smarter than you. You will always do. It's just, you learn so much. It makes work so much more interesting. But a big part of my job is on the end, figuring out when to bring the documentary to an audience. And so obviously last night, our premiere, Feels Good Man, looks at the use of memes and racist, using the internet to disrupt an election. And so obviously last night was a good night to play that. And next Monday, we have the film Represent, which looks at women running for office. It wouldn't have been smart of me to offer those films, in January, when we're all
right.
Don't mention the word election. I'm going to kill myself if somebody talks about an election. And so then my job is to figure out, well, what is going to be really interesting in January? And what did happen this year, and I think one of you sort of hinted at this earlier, when George Floyd was murdered, PBS reached out and said, your programming, not Lois, but Independent Lens, ITVS's programming, is the most important programming we have right now, because you do have this history of films about police brutality and racism, and about redlining, and about economic disparity, and about, all of these different things that are coming to the forefront of our culture. And so we actually brought back into rights about 20 of our former titles from our back catalog, because they were all still relevant, sadly. And the stories that they talked about were still important. And our hope was that they then added to the dialogue that was happening in homes all across the country. And for me, there was one moment, like you have these moments where you feel like, you have the despair moments where you feel like there's just so many problems, the world is so messed up. Are we just throwing confetti in the Grand Canyon? Does it even matter? Is it having any impact at all? Because the problems continue. But then you have this other moment where I just happened to turn on NPR, and they were interviewing 3 generations of activists in Minneapolis right after George Floyd's murder. It was like a 32-year-old woman, her 58-year-old mother, and then their 75-year-old grandfather. And all 3 of them said they became activated from watching documentaries on PBS.
That's so cool.
Oh my God. Okay. What we collectively do has influenced these 3 incredible people to be doing the incredible work they're doing. And so it is just about feeding the river. We're all just trying to feed a river towards social justice. And so that moment, I was just like doing a happy dance, like these people who I will never meet, some tiny, tiny thing I did influenced their incredible lives.
Right. There's a ripple, and it's working.
Yeah. And that's all we can do. I was thinking about it this morning when I was out doing an errand. Like, the world is innately, there's a lot of hard stuff in the world, but if we're innately putting into the world things that can empower people, educate people, entertain people, challenge stereotypes that are wrong, then at least we're trying to stem the tide and ripple out something positive or different.
Well, Nevada Humanities, they are hosting these online viewing parties. And that's how I ended up watching I Am Not Your Negro, because that was the first one in their series. And I didn't even know that I was going to be interviewing you yet. It was just a coincidence that, hey, I saw that, you know, I'm looking you over. It's like, hey, she's responsible for that.
Well, Raoul Peck is really responsible. I mean, the director, he has a new 4-part docuseries that's going to be dropping pretty soon. And it's not with us, sadly, but it's brilliant. So yeah, it's people like him and his colleagues who are so inspiring. I mean, he did spend 10 years.
I just meant you helped make it a reality. I know it wasn't your seed, but.
No, and I take credit for having supported him and it and being involved in making it. And I'm really proud of it. I just always want to make sure that that they get called out, because he did spend 10 years making that documentary, which is, you know, again, that is, to me, that is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, that's dedication.
Yeah,
a level of dedication
that you'll never see me do or commit to. I'm sorry. Tanya, what did you think of the movie, of the documentary?
It was hard to watch in some parts, but you know, I want to watch it again, and I want to watch it with people I love.
Yeah,
it's an important film. I think people should watch it, and yeah, it's going to make you uncomfortable, but
when we released it theatrically, people would linger outside movie theaters for like an hour. Strangers would just sort of hang out in the parking lot talking because they were so sort of, you know, hit by it and need to talk to somebody about it. To your point, it is a film that it's good to watch with other people because the response and the emotional impact it has on you. And to me, that's again the sign of a really great documentary, is if people need to talk about it afterwards and want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. That, boy, like that's an incredible contribution.
That's the beginning of the change.
Yeah.
Tanya, anything else?
I want to shift gears and just ask, what are you responsible for in your role as governor for the Television Academy?
Wow, well, that's a fun question. So the Television Academy, you know, has been around since the, 1940s. It was created to acknowledge excellence in television. And so one of the things the Television Academy does that's probably best known for is it's responsible for the Emmy Awards. But it also has the foundation where it gives back to the community. It has an extraordinary internship program. Right now I'm working with this wonderful, you guys should have her on, Jada. She's a great intern. She just graduated from Howard, and she's trying to make her way into the documentary film world. So it does a lot of different things. What I do as a governor is we evaluate the programs that the Academy puts out, and we're always, you know, refining them and making them better. Like the Emmy Awards, every year we have to change change this or add an award or take away an award. I, as a governor, host events. So for example, one of the things I really love doing, I worked with my fellow music governor, Ricky Minor. And if you look up Ricky Minor, because he's this incredible guy, he used to work with Whitney Houston. Anyhow, he and I put on an event together where we had, I picked 5 documentaries, and the composer and the editor, and then the director, and then he had a full orchestra on stage, and the orchestra played live music. And then the composer and the director talked about how they used music to solve a creative challenge in the film. And one of the films I featured was Always in Season, which is a really hard film to watch, but a really important film to watch. So if you look up Always in Season by Jackie Olive. And so anyhow, producing that event with Ricky and with the staff from the Television Academy was really a wonderful experience. And then it was filmed, and now it lives on their website. Last week, I hosted an event to talk about, to help our members have access to different funders so that they can find money to keep making their work. And so it's a lot of different things like that. It's a very active board. We meet every single month. And they meet down in LA, but now during COVID, of course, we all meet over the phone, like this. So it's a lot of different kind of work. I joined it for 2 reasons. One was because I felt this industry had been really good to me and I wanted to try to give back. But also I felt that the issue of diversity and equity needed to be more front and center, and that we needed to diversify. And I recognize I'm white. I'm not, I know that I'm white. But I felt that if I could make that a conversation in every meeting that I went to, and in every time we talked about rules or expanding work, to really, and so there are a lot of governors who've been very involved in trying to make diversity a bigger core part of the Academy as a whole, both what you guys see as an audience, what you women, what we all see on screen, but also who gets represented behind the screen and the camera and who gets awards, to really try to think about diversity throughout the entire industry. And I felt that I could do that with a bigger microphone and megaphone if I was on the board, frankly, which is true.
Great idea.
Well, that was a great idea. So I guess we're on our last question, which is, where can people?
Oh, can we do a next to the last question since we've already ran over?
I have one more question that I think your fans will want to hear.
Okay. So then Tanya's
But it should be quick. It's just, I know you were involved with Sundance. Do you have any tips for filmmakers who want to get their work into Sundance?
Oh, yeah, it's great. One of the best jobs I ever had was working at Sundance for 5 years. I loved it. You know, it's just hard. It's so competitive. I can't really say I offer a tip. Sadly, you know, if you know anybody who works there, it probably does help to try to make sure somebody as high up on the food chain as possible watches it, but it's hard to get to know somebody who works there if you're just coming into the field. But the one thing I would say, as great as Sundance is, and it is fantastic, it's just one festival. There are so many other great festivals. And so I'll often say to people, if you don't get into Sundance, it's not the end of the world. There are still all these other incredible film festivals where you will get as much exposure, if not more, because you won't be one of many, you'll be the one. And so we've had films that premiered at much smaller festivals and gotten much bigger traction just because they weren't kind of lost. But Sundance is wonderful. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's a big platform.
My question was a silly question, which I think we should end on because I feel like it's more brand appropriate.
We need to say she's a say the website, and then we can do that.
Yeah, of course.
There we go.
But anyway, my question is, what do you wear to the governor's ball?
Which is really, really important.
I've been wanting to ask that since I've seen your name.
Now we're talking. You go out and buy a dress. I mean, you got to get a dress. And there's not one, not two, there's 3 balls. Ooh. So every year I have to get 3 dresses. Yes. And my husband wears the same suit every time. And I'm getting 3 dresses, but I'm not really complaining. But then I have to sell them. So the next year I can get 3 new dresses. So I'll send you some of my looks if you want to see them.
Oh, yes. Yes. Of course.
Okay, so I feel bad.
I'll show you some photos.
I looked up your documentary work, and then I was like, oh, and then there's the governor's ball, and I've been sitting here going, does anyone have pictures of her in her dresses? And I'm like, I have spent 6 hours on dresses and 3 hours on documentaries, like maybe 3 hours spread. Let's say like 15 minutes in each hour, and I'm like, dresses.
That's the important thing, because we were joking, people watching this before we started recording, I was bemoaning the fact that I didn't put makeup on because I hate wearing makeup and I never wear it, except to the Emmys. I get somebody and they do it for me, and they slap it on, and then you do feel like, you know, wow, I put some effort into this. So I will send you some photos just because it is fun.
Yes,
and the fun part. Then you're walking the red carpet and you're like, oh, there's Justin Timberlake. Oh, there's, you know, and you're like, you know, I mean, there's Tracy Ellis Ross. Oh my God. Okay. There's, you know, I mean, it's a little goofy, fun, but we're all just, it's like senior prom, but we're all just older in better dresses.
I like it very much.
An awesome makeup.
Oh man.
All right, Jade, final question.
Okay, the final question is, as you mentioned it several times, the website that people can go and pitch. Can you just mention that one more time?
And can we support on this website as well? Can we donate?
Is there
you know, we don't have a button for donating. watch our shows. That be an audience member is a great way to support us. Or write in when you watch a documentary, if it moves you or if it makes you angry, or, you know, to Tanya's point, if it makes you want to think or talk, that's what we want. We want conversation. We want engagement.
Where can people watch those films?
Yes, so you go to pbs.org/independent lens. So pbs.org/independent lens. All of our films premiere on television, but then they stream sometimes for 2 weeks, sometimes for 30 days, and then they come back a few months later. So if you go there now, you can probably watch maybe 12 or 14 different docs, and then a lot of short form content. So pbs.org/independent lens to watch. And then if you're a filmmaker and you want to check out our funding, go to itvs.org. That's I as in igloo, T as in Tom, V as in Victor, S as in service, because our name is Independent Television Service, itvs.org. And you'll see a little button called funding, and click on that, and all the information you need for the feature docs, for short form, for, you know, it's all there. So just go to the website and then apply. It's very competitive. I don't want to imply that we just give away money left and right. We are only able to fund about 2% of the applications we get, because we get a lot of applications, but we are always looking for new talent. We are definitely looking for diverse voices. We're looking for fresh ideas. In the short form area, we really want new ideas, new makers who want to bring great stories to public media.
All right, so I guess this is me wrapping up. Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Tanya, where can people find out more about you?
I'm on social media at Ms. Tanya Todd, and my website is www.mstanyatodd.com.
I love it. Wait, Tanya, is it rude if we announce what just happened that made us so excited about your career?
I don't know if it's rude, but it might be inappropriate.
Oh, it's inappropriate then. So y'all, but
she had a wonderful thing happen in her career.
Follow Ms. Tanya Todd.
Because of these wonderful ladies.
Because of her beautiful, wonderful work, whatever. So follow Ms. Tanya Todd to like find out what wonderful thing happened in her universe.
There you go.
All right. And so thank you for coming on.
Jane, would you like to wrap us up?
Yeah, you can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. While you're there, go to the homepage, like check out all the new fun things we have in our book and a half that's coming out soon. Like so, second edition of one, and then a actual new book coming out soon. You can check all of that out. And more importantly than all of that, though, go to the ladies tab, go down to the middle and see the charities that we proudly support. Let's keep in mind it is October and it's Domestic Violence Month, so you might want to give special attention to Powerful Beginners. They're doing wonderful things in their charity work, and maybe you can help them out. They have a list of things that they need, not only money, because yes, it's 2020, so as the old saying says, money is funny, but you can also donate your time, or if you can't do that, just add them on social media and say thank you for doing this wonderful work in the world, or send them an email too. Why not, right? And we thank you in advance for that. And remember, wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and acceptance. So peace and love, you guys, from Will Nona
and Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.